What's going on, everybody? Keith here, Two Guys How To. Merry Christmas, all that good stuff. It's Christmas morning and son's still sleeping, so I figured I'd come outside and get something done real quick before he wakes up. So I'm working on a 68 Ford Galaxy, and it's got a 390 motor in it, and we're changing the mechanical fuel pump. Actually, it had one on it, but the gas tank had rusted out, and the fuel inside the pump and into the carburetor was just nasty. So we rebuilt the carb the other day. It's got a 600 Holly on it, and we've got our fuel pump here, which is a mechanical fuel pump. Basically, as the motor turns, it pushes a shaft down that off the cam mechanism and everything that pushes this lever, which pumps gas, and on the bottom of it you've got your in right here and your outlet. So this is going to come from your gas tank or your gas source and pump up to your carb, and it's got an adapter on it. So if you buy one of these, most likely it's not going to come with this adapter. Save the one that's on it, or buy one of these adapters that goes in, or sometimes you might need even an adapter on this if it comes with that same nut. This is it looks like it's not really sure who's, maybe a Delphi, and it's probably an AF0008 or something like that. So it's just a mechanical fuel pump for 289, 302, 390, the other 400 series EF motors, so the Ford. So this is the one. They didn't have one locally, so this one was on the car. I took it in the kitchen sink and cleaned it, and pumped soapy water through it, and then cleaned it with water, straight water, hot water, and it's good now. You can see a little bit of just little buildup right there, but I'm going to run a fuel filter after this line up towards the carburetor, so I'm going to filter everything out if there are a couple little floaties in there. But it's a brand new pump. It looked like it was on the car, so I actually took this off, but I'm going to show you guys exactly where it goes, and then I'm going to show you you just reverse the steps to take it off. So if we're looking at the car on the Ford, it's down on the right. If you got a Chevy or something like that, it's all the same procedure. It's got these two holes in it. You can see the shaft right there. This one is a little bit of a bear to get to. To get these bolts in and out, you got to use a 14 mil or 9/16, and just slowly but surely get it in there. I got some anti-seize grease I'm going to put on the bolts, and I've got a new gasket here that works on a lot of these different fuel pumps here. And I save all my part numbers. I'm going to put it down in the office and match it up to the 68 Ford Galaxy customer's number, and it's a 6579. So I went ahead and just bought a brand new gasket, and we're going to reuse this old pump. It's got some numbers on it, an N6884, but I couldn't cross that anything over to that. It might be a Napa pump or something like that. So I've got my array of tools here. I got my 14 mil, I got my 1/4-inch socket. I've even got some bendable extensions here that I'm going to try to get up inside there, and that way maybe I can get it in with the socket and possibly not use the wrenches. So I'm going to show you. Let's go down underneath, and I sprayed this gasket. This is a Felpro, it's blue, and I sprayed it already with the spray copper by Permatex. You shake it up. That way once this motor gets hot, it's going to stick, and I don't have to worry about any leaks. So that thing's ready to go. It's still tacky, but it's supposed to be like that. So let's get underneath. I got a wire brush, and I cleaned the base plate, and I'm going to show you guys exactly where it is here. If you're looking at the oil filter, and let's see, and you can see it right up there coming off the motor. Let's see if I can get the light lit up for you guys well enough, and you can see the orifice right there coming off the side of the motor, and I cleaned it really well. Let's see if I can show you guys. You can see it right here. Here's your two bolt holes, and here's the orifice that comes off the block. I wire brushed it and I cleaned it. It had a bunch of glue on there, and I had this old gasket that looks like they tried to glue with some blue Permatex. So right there shows me that they just did some half-ass work before. So I went ahead and I scraped off. I made sure I got all the blue, and there was some gray glue in there. I got that off too using a scraper and some carb clean, and I kept spraying the carb clean. And I got this little wire brush right here. You spray that carb clean, you just keep wire brushing it and cleaning it, and wire brushing it and cleaning it until it looks clean metal like that. So we're good to go. I know we're good now. And let me see where that fuel pump is. I'll show you how that thing fits up here real fast, if I can reach it. And there's actually a shaft up in there. Sometimes when you take the fuel pump out, there's a rod up in there that could possibly come out on you. Sometimes you gotta put it back in with a screwdriver, chase it up there with a screwdriver, and then put this, you know, kind of like this cam lever and catch it. It can be a little bit weird. So let's see right here. I'll show you what's up, how it's gonna go in, and then I'm gonna hook up my new lines. This particular piece is still up inside there. So you got that long, crooked shaft there. That's your little cam shaft. And you slide it in there. Keep it all the way down at the bottom. Try to hit that shaft and push it up. And once you get it seated in there, it should sit flat up against the motor. So let's take this back out. I'm going to clean all this with some rubbing alcohol. And I'm also going to clean the fuel pump itself with some rubbing alcohol. And we're going to go ahead and install this thing real quick. And you can see exactly what it looks like right there. I'm going to clean all around this edge here. I wire brushed it. And I'm going to clean it with some rubbing alcohol. So you want to make sure this part butts up flat right to the motor. If it doesn't, you don't have that piece up inside the motor touching this this cam push rod right here. This is what pumps your gas. It's pretty stiff. You can do it if you have two hands. So, all right, I'm going to show you guys that fuel pump. You can see that motor as the cam's rolling around and everything's doing its job. It's pushing down on this spout here, kind of like a lever. You can see it's just it's hollow underneath there, just shaped in a U bracket, and you can see how it pushes down. And the motor's sitting there pushing like that. And if I put my hands over it, you can hear it suction. So it's pretty stiff. It doesn't move very far, maybe a ½ inch down, 3/4 of an inch at most. And that's how she works. It sucks in the gas and blows it out. So let's go ahead and get this thing on, clean this with some rubbing alcohol, clean up on the motor with some rubbing alcohol and a clean rag. And I'm going to have to get Mr. Miyagi on it to get up inside these. I'm actually going to put the bolts in there first with some anti-seize grease on those, and then slide it all up at the same time, and then gently turn these in and try to get a thread or two on it before I get my wrench. So let's climb back under there and get raw. Okay, and you can see how clean I got the motor. It goes right into the side of the block right there. Everything's clean and ready to go for an install. So it took me a little bit of time to wire brush it and scrape it gently and spray some carb clean on there and wire brush it some more until I got all the old gasket, both the gray and the blue, off of there. So we're ready to go. Let's put this thing back in gently, keeping that main shaft off the pump down as far as we can towards the oil pan and pushing up so we can hit that little camshaft, and then it should butt up flush right onto the block. Alright, so I got some clean rubbing alcohol on this clean rag. I'm just going to wipe down this base plate. Even if you get a brand new one out of the box, make sure you clean this off. There's oils on here from the factory. Some people don't. I clean everything because I'm not trying to go back in and work on anything again, period. So I'm going to go back up underneath real quick. I'm going to wipe down the base plate on the motor. All right. And I got a little anti-seize grease on the bolts. I wire brushed the threads on the bolts and cleaned them up so that way my fingers don't get oily. Let's go ahead and get this gasket on here. And you're just going to lay it right on there the same way. It matches the silhouette of the outside of the pump. So good to go there. And I think on this one I'm going to get the bolts started. I'm just going to put them through a little bit and keep them up in there and somehow manipulate it and worm my way in to get it on there. So I'm going to leave these like this And remember, you got your oil pan down here. I'm gonna put this in and kind of scoop up underneath that rod, that push rod that's on here. So the rod's sitting up in the motor like that. I'm just gonna slide it down and get underneath of that, push this rod up, and this should be butted up to the motor block right like that, and that rod pushes this down. So if it doesn't butt up flat flush, take a screwdriver up in that hole, push that rod up, and we'd be good to go. So let's get back under there, let's get this thing on and finish this up real quick before the rain comes in and people are opening presents in the house. Alright, so I'm underneath the car now, and I actually got it up in there. It's a nightmare leaving this hose on here, the antifreeze hose, and this big old power steering pump's in the way, and the oil filter's in the way. If I did it over, I'd probably just drain the antifreeze out because it needs it anyway and remove the hose, but you know, most of you aren't going to do that. So I'll show you what we've got going on here, and you can see the pump up in there. It's pushed up against the block, and I've got this 1/4-inch drive right here to a solid extension, and I have this flexible extension. It's actually like a snake and it bends up on there. So it's kind of a crazy little setup, you can see. So if I tighten down here, it'll follow that snake up and turn that head of that bolt right there. And I'm pretty much tight there, and I'm going to move it over to the other side, and then I'm going to snug it with a 14 mil or a 9/16 wrench and get these fuel lines on here. So let me finish up this. You can order one of these extensions, the flexible extensions, online. You can see it. It just kind of looks like a microphone stand that's flexible. So let me finish up here, and then we'll get back up top. Alright, so I got it on. It was a total nightmare. Next time I would probably change those bolts out and go with a 1/2-inch head or 13mm head, and with the same size thread and thread pitch. That way you can get a socket around it. And someone might have swapped these out, but hindsight, next time I'm going to swap that out. That way I can get a 1/2-inch socket around there. And you can see here I've got my electric fuel pump just for now because I wasn't running the old fuel pump. But I will run this down to the outside of the fuel pump, and I'll hook up a gas can right in this area that will go down to the inside, the inlet, and it says in on the one. And let's go underneath. Can I have this, please? So I can show you what it looks like underneath there. And you can see right there, there's the fuel pump. It's tight, so we've got this says in on the bottom here on this one, and let's actually put this like this. It says in right here, this is your out. So I'm going to run this from my little gas tank underneath the hood, or if you have a gas tank in the back of the car, this would be your outline that would run all the way to the back trunk. This goes up to the carburetor. You can feed it through the motor. Just be careful so it doesn't get too hot. I'm going to worry about that later and put some wire loom on it. Everything's good to go. Just remember, you got your in that's coming from your gas tank, and your out is going to your carburetor. And on this line going up there, once I get close to the carb, I'm actually got an inline fuel filter before it goes to the carb. Normally on the way back there, you got a fuel filter. Sometimes they're mounted to the frame, so I go ahead and bypass all that and change that one back there, and I also put one right before the carburetor. I double filter it. So there she goes. It's tight up against the block and everything's good. So I need to get out of here and do some other stuff real fast before I start the car. I'm going to put some brand new fuel line, and I can show you that fuel filter that I have right here. It's a Hastings 95F or something like that, H95, but you can get some knockoff ones. Just don't get the super cheap ones because they will leak here. And even this has an arrow of which way the gas goes on this inline fuel filter, and we're good to go. I'm going to hook this thing up, mount this over to the firewall, run another canister in here just to get this thing running so I can get the carb going. And it's pretty simple, so I'm out of here. Happy holidays. I got one more thing fixed on Christmas morning, so it's always a good thing. That was a nightmare to get those bolts in there. It's better off I didn't film it, because you would have heard a lot of words you probably never heard before. So get those extensions, be patient. get a wrench in there, get a little teeny 1/4 inch extension and drive with a bobble head on it. That way it can kind of tweak in there. Don't strip the bolts. If you're working on a 390 Ford and it's just like this, I would go to the hardware store and get the same exact bolts, the same exact length, but the head, instead of being a 9/16 or a 14 mil, I would get the head at a 13 mil. That way, or a 12. That way you can get the socket up there and you just knock it out quick. So Keith, 2 Guys How To. Fix it yourself, save that money, buy more parts. Check out the other videos, and that's it. Simple, easy. $25 pump. Came with the gasket. Actually, I have another pump with gasket, but I went ahead and put that brand new Fel-Pro and cleaned this old pump out, and we're good to go. So fix it yourself. Don't pay anybody. You can do it. Save that money. I'm out. See ya.
What's up, Iggy? Talk to him before I shut the video down. Oh yeah. Yep. You're not a pig, you're a lawyer.
He's not a pig, he's a lawyer.